Hey guys, welcome to Mastermind Content. My name is Richard Oldale and the purpose of this channel is to teach you how to use archetypes and ancient wisdom as a self-development tool. And today we're going to delve into the warrior archetype, one of the most powerful and important archetypes to develop. So if you want to know how, stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to another Mastermind Content episode of the Archetype series, and today I'm going to share some important information with you about the warrior archetype. And as I mentioned in the intro, the warrior is one of these worthwhile archetypes to develop, or parts of your personality to develop, because it's one of the most powerful and important archetypes in your personality for getting shit done and doing it well. Now, when this archetype is well developed, you have the composure to hold your nerve and back yourself to overcome challenges that lie ahead of you without worrying about making mistakes. As a matter of fact, by the time you reach a stage of psychological development that fits with the warrior archetype, you're prepared to make mistakes because you recognize they are a part of the learning process. Moreover, you know how to learn from your mistakes. Because you have a strong mentality and self-assurance, you go into any battlefield without any fear. Now, before we move on with the warrior, it's worth mentioning that this archetype is very similar to the hero archetype, but it's at a more advanced stage of psychological development. That's because the warrior is one of the three archetypes which we classify at Mastermind Content as a ruler archetype. And the ruler is a decision-making faculty of the conscious personality, which ultimately decides which course of action you will take from day to day, moment to moment. However, the decision makers can be influenced by other archetypes, and one of the most influential of those decision-making archetypes for the warrior is the hero. So it's important to recognise whether your warrior archetype has developed beyond the psychological development of the hero first. So I'm going to explain a few of the key differences in this video between the hero and the warrior. But if you want to know more about the warrior, then watch part 1 here, part 2 here, and part 3 here. I've left links to all 3 videos in the description below. And you may also want to subscribe to the channel so you are notified every time I post more content that is relevant to you. So let's crack on and discuss the key similarities and the differences between the warrior and the hero archetypes. Well, the similarities are that they are both assertive, committed to change, courageous, cooperative, devoted and protective of others, gritty and hardworking, motivated and action orientated, and they have a willingness to achieve and overcome adversity. So as you can see, both the hero and the warrior play a central role in getting you from where you are to where you want to be. Now here is the key differences between the two that are important to recognize. So first of all, fearlessness and fear. The warrior does not have any fear. The hero will feel some form of anxiety or apprehension, which is actually quite normal when you go into a new environment or you're doing something new that you don't have a program for, or whilst you're still learning. The second difference is composure versus apprehension. So this kind of builds on to the fearlessness versus fear, because the warrior without any fear is calm and composed. Apprehension fuels the anxiety or even trepidation, the fear of the warrior. The third one is strategy and patience versus rushing in headlong. So again, the fearlessness and the composure of the warrior gives them patience, but the warrior also goes into challenges with a plan, some form of strategy. and that gives them a bit more insight into what they need to do, so they're basically a bit more prepared. Whereas if your dominant archetype is the hero, then you tend to rush into these challenges without planning ahead, without thinking ahead, without a strategy. Basically, you don't have the patience to hold back, to sit down and plan. You just need to get something done because you don't like that sense that uncertainty gives you. The fourth difference is trust versus anxiety, which we've pretty much spoken about already. So obviously the hero has these normal levels of anxiousness, whereas the warrior has self-trust. And it's this self-trust in their ability to confront challenges and not be afraid of making mistakes because they know they can overcome mistakes, gives them the fearlessness and the composure. So they're all built on self-trust. And the final difference is resilience versus gives up too easily. As I mentioned just a moment ago, the warrior is not afraid to make mistakes. They also know that they can learn from mistakes, so they will continue to try even when they do make mistakes. So this is how you build resilience. It's consistency and resilience. Whereas the hero maybe will fail 2 or 3, maybe 4 times, and then they'll go, oh, I can't do this, and just give up. So these are the key differences between the hero and the warrior. So essentially the warrior is the matured version of the hero, as you can see by these differences. And this is something that's also been identified by the American psychologists Robert Moore and George Dillett in their book King, Warrior, Magician, Lover, which I highly recommend reading, by the way. Moore and Gillette say the hero is, in fact, only an advanced form of boy psychology, the most advanced form, the peak, actually, of the masculine energies of the boy or girl. The brackets are mine, by the way. The archetype that characterises the best in the adolescent stage of development. Yes, it is immature, and when it is carried over into adulthood as the governing archetype, it blocks men from full maturity. So can you see there how Moore and Gillette are talking about the hero as being an underdeveloped and immatured psychology, which is consistent with the attributes of the hero. Now on the flip side, this is what Moore and Gillette have to say about the warrior. A warrior knows what he wants and he knows how to get it. He accurately assesses his own strength and skill. If he finds that a frontal assault will not work, he deflects his opponent's assault, spots the weaknesses in his flank, then leaps into battle. Here is the difference between the warrior and the hero. The man, or the boy, accessing the hero, as we've said, does not know his limitations. He is romantic about his invulnerability. The warrior, however, through his clarity of thinking, realistically assesses the capacities and his limitations in any given situation. So here we have a key distinction between the hero and the warrior. The hero lacks patience and composure, which can ultimately prompt you to run into action without a clear plan. The epitaph for the hero is the age-old axiom of fail to plan and you plan to fail. The warrior, on the other hand, a master of strategy, goes into a situation with a clear frame of mind. Now, that's not to say that you should never act instinctively or spontaneously. It just depends on the circumstances. It depends what situation you are heading into. Sometimes you may not have a choice and need to act instinctively. Spontaneous decisions may be for an adventure rather than a journey, for example. You only need a strategy for life-changing challenges. Making on-the-spot decisions whether or not to book a weekend getaway, for example, is not particularly a life-changing event, but it can make for a brilliant weekend because you make a split decision and don't have time to think about it beforehand. You just act spontaneously. Another point I wanted to highlight by comparing the hero and the archetype is to make you understand that you are not just one archetype. You have access to all 12, and you need all 12 to successfully manage your environment in a wide variety of ways because they all bring different skills, attributes and emotions. Now the archetype that you utilise the most is predominantly determined by your environment. It determines which archetype you need to fulfill your role in any given moment of the day. But essentially, to become a whole and well-rounded person, you need to be developing all 12 of the archetypes. Now, the archetypes are innate qualities, but they get repressed. So we have to learn how to express these attributes. The sad truth is that the more programmed we become, the less access we have to these innate qualities. So we have to engage with life to develop them in the first place. The hero, as you will find in the hero videos, is about engagement of life. The warrior is about having the courage to overcome the obstacles that you experience by engaging life. And this is a key lesson in self-development. You won't get anywhere in life unless you have the qualities to reach your goals. But you will always reach your goals when you integrate the qualities that you need in relation to the archetype that manages your environment. So resilience and trust are two of the attributes that enable you to differentiate the hero and the warrior. So you probably know from experience that when you're not prepared for the experience you're having, like when you rush into something without a plan, you can quickly become overwhelmed with stress and confusion. Now, in this state of mind, and because you don't have the relevant knowledge or skill set, you're more likely to make mistakes. So, when you experience a string of failures, your capacity to develop the hero falls into decline. And that means you don't even start to develop the psychological maturity of the developed warrior, which would otherwise help you to build resilience and achieve your goals. Rather, the warrior stays in the underdeveloped state of psychological maturity, and you adopt the less favourable qualities and attributes and emotions of that archetype. So if you are among the billions that give up on your intentions too soon, try to develop some consistency and build resilience, because this will help you to mature the hero so that you can develop the warrior into a strong personality that enables you to get from where you are to where you want to be. Okay guys, I'm going to park the warrior there for the time being, but if you want to know more about this archetype, I will be highlighting some of the less favourable traits in part 2. And following on from that in part 3, I'll show you some strategies of how you can develop the warrior. So keep an eye out for that by subscribing to the Mastermind Content channel and hitting that notification bell. Oh, and if you did like this video, please hit the like button while you're in the vicinity. Much obliged. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.